So the fifth legal requirement for a contract to be valid is, whoa, what's up, dude? This is weird. I know. You, me. Correction. I'm you. What are you doing here? I'm trying to record a video. I just wanted to come fix your mistakes. What do you mean? I finished everything. I went over everything. You did forget that performance must not only be possible, but it must also be ascertainable. Yeah, performance must be possible and ascertainable. Exactly. Okay, it's fine. No. Relax. I'll take it from here. No, you messed up, so let the boys from the future handle this. I'm not only here to talk about the ascertainability of performance, but I'm also here to tell them about what makes performance impossible, like I promised. I mean, like you promised. I mean, like you're about to promise. You know what? Let me just disappear and leave you to your future. Yeah, let's get to it. Hello and welcome to Talking Smart with the Dando Man. I am the Dando Man, the best there is, there was, and there is to come. Thank you very much for joining me today. In this channel, we help give you the necessary knowledge, skills, and tools that you need in order to start and grow your business. So if you're interested in content like that, consider subscribing and hitting the notification button in order to get more information like this. Just like we said last week, that if performance is impossible, then the contract automatically becomes invalid. Now, there are 4 types of impossibilities that might exist in terms of performance in a contract. Now, the first type of impossibility of performance is objective impossibility of performance. This basically means that no one can render performance. In simple terms, it means that any reasonable person in the same circumstances or position as the contracting parties would not be able to perform according to the terms of the contract. Basically meaning that, for example, if I had to buy a painting from my friend Supervening, it happened to get completely destroyed in a fire, then my friend Supervening would not be able to deliver that painting to me. And any reasonable person in Supervening's position would also not be able to perform in terms of the contract, then resulting in objective impossibility of performance, and thus meaning that the contract will be invalid or void. The second type of impossibility that exists is subjective impossibility. Subjective impossibility of performance basically means that the contracting party who is supposed to render performance is personally unable to render that performance, meaning that performance is still possible by another person, but not the contracting party who is supposed to render or deliver that performance. In this instance, the contract remains valid and enforceable. The obligations in terms of the contract do not terminate. For example, if I had to buy a car from my friend Tabang for 100,000 and it happens that I don't have the money to pay for that car, performance is still possible by any other person who has the money, but not me. In that instance, the contract is still valid and enforceable, and Tabang can take me to court and basically have the court compel me or have it enforce the contract, because the terms of the contract remain valid because the contract is subjectively impossible. The third type of impossibility that exists is initial impossibility of performance. Basically, initial impossibility of performance is when it is objectively impossible to perform according to the terms of the contract at the time that the contract is concluded, meaning that you can't sell me a horse or car which does not exist. In those instances, the contract will be invalid and void, and no obligations will arise from that contract. Now, the fourth type of impossibility of performance that exists is what we call supervening impossibility of performance. This is basically when performance was possible during the conclusion of the contract, before the conclusion of the contract. However, it became objectively impossible after the contract was concluded. Supervening impossibility of performance then leads to the contract becoming invalid and void and unenforceable in a court of law. In order for it to be invalid and void, the impossibility had to be caused by circumstances beyond the control of the parties, and it had to be unforeseen. Basically, there are 2 types of factors which lead to supervening impossibility of performance. The first one is known as vice major, or the act of God, simply meaning that the impossibility of performance is caused by natural disasters, your floods, earthquakes, and so on and so forth. Maybe your car was hit by a hailstone and got destroyed, or earthquake and got swallowed up by the earth. Yeah, and just hypothetical situation. And the second one is known as casus fortuitous. Casus fortuitous. Casus fortuitous. I don't know how to pronounce that, but casus. Okay, I'll write it here. Basically, these are accidents or events which lead to performance becoming impossible. For example, a law which is passed which prevents the type of contract which you entered into to be entered into. Yeah. Contract will not be void if the supervening impossibility of performance happens under these circumstances. Number one, whereby the supervening impossibility of performance was foreseen or should have reasonably been foreseen. For example, the weather said that a hailstorm was coming and you basically left your car out in the open, and then the hailstorm came and destroyed the car. Basically, that was foreseen, or it should have reasonably known that that was coming, and then be able to take the right precautionary measures to prevent that. Number two, if the supervening impossibility of performance was caused by the contracting party, whether it was intentionally or negligently. The third one, if the passing of risk rule applies in the contract, and we'll explain what the passing of risk rule is when we do the contract of sale. Basically, those are the type of impossibility that exists. And if you remember, I said that in order for a contract to be valid, the performance must be possible. Not only must the performance be possible, but it also must be certain or ascertainable. This basically means that the performance is certain or can be determined. Basically, a contract could be void for uncertainty for the following reasons. First of all, that there is use of vague language. The contractual terms are vague or unclear. And the third one is that the contract which is entered into is for an indefinite or undetermined, unspecified duration. In those instances, basically the contract will be void. If performance is certain or ascertainable, then it is valid. For example, I agreed to buy Tabang's car at a price which will be determined by a specific car dealer. In those instances, the contract is valid because performance is ascertainable or can be determined. Yes. Yeah, basically that's it from me today. Thank you very much for joining me for today's edition of Talking Smart with the Dando Man. And if you found value in this video, please do like and share this video and comment on it, and subscribe to the channel to get more videos like this. Please do check out our podcast Talking Smart with the Dando Man on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. I promise you will enjoy it. And what else? Yeah, go check out our social media pages at Talking Smart and Talking Smart with the Dando Man, Facebook and Instagram respectively. Thank you very much for joining me. Remember, you never turn your dreams into a reality while you're still asleep.